Hey guys, SK here, back with another Clash Royale video, and today we are going to be finishing the Arena Challenge. So, last time I did part 1, and I did Arenas 6 to 10, all with my own custom-made Xbow decks. I also went over how to build your own Xbow deck, and my thought process of it. As you can see here, there is exactly 1 hour and 5 minutes left in the challenge, which is cutting it pretty close. But I did want to record, so I made a community post yesterday talking about how I'm trying to focus more on real life and take better care of things so that I can also have more fun when making videos. I think it's going pretty well. So that's why there's been a bit of a shortage of commentary videos lately, but I do still want to keep them coming, just kind of at my own pace, and I think that's a healthy way to approach it. But the Arena Challenge is back, and so I'm going to be finishing it with just an hour left. And so last time I used a bunch of really fun decks. Arena 6 I used 3.3 Xbow with Inferno Tower. Arena 7 I used Xbow Double Prince, which seems weird but it actually worked. Arena 8 I used 2.9 Xbow with Inferno Tower. Arena 9 I used Xbow Cycle with no building and poison. And in Arena 10 I used an absolutely horrifying Xbow Double Spawner deck. And so the Arena Challenge, we are trying to get this elusive Goblin Rocket emote. It is honestly quite late, so that is on me, but I did finish it on one of my accounts, and I guess I'll be finishing on this one too. So let's get right into Arena 11, and so I did talk about some deck ideas I had last time. So I have 3 deck ideas in mind right now for the decks today. So for Arena 11, I want to use Xbow Mortar. This has been a pretty requested deck by some of you guys as well, since, you know, it's double siege, it's pretty fun, and Mortar is not really similar to the Tesla, but it is another building. And so I think to go with this deck, Fireball and Log are pretty standard, and Musketeer and Knight actually work really well in my opinion. Musketeer and Knight, just very solid defensive cards. I've said this before. In my Road to 112 in Classic Challenges series, I played Pump Bow with Musketeer and Knight, and that worked really well. And so I think I'm going to put Skeletons in next just to advance the cycle. And so now I want to think about what's the last card I'm going to need in this Xbow Mortar deck, and I feel like based on what I have already, I have Xbow Mortar. I only have 1 air card, so I'm going to want another air card. And I already have Skeletons for the fast cycle. It doesn't necessarily need to be a really fast cycle card like another Spirit. So I think Mega Minion just fits this role absolutely perfectly. And it does keep the cycle still at 3.4. So this is just a really fun Xbow Mortar deck that I think I'm going to be playing. It's really enjoyable, and it's probably been seen before. But this is just off the top of my head. I feel like this works really well. Xbow and Mortar are really fun. You can use both offensively. You can use one defensively, one offensively. Just great and very chaotic. So let's get into the matches. Don't want to do a super long intro, although it is already quite long. But we're in our first match against Uguay. And so I think we're going to try and see what he has before cycling anything. But if he doesn't make a play, I'm just going to cycle a Musketeer because I feel like it's pretty safe. We still have Mega Minion in hand if they have another air card. And I'm going to go for a Knight now. So my opponent has a Valkyrie. Could, honestly, not going to bother predicting decks too much, since, yep, Tombstone, Valkyrie Tombstone I don't really see at all on ladder. So these kind of challenges are definitely more casual and for fun, as compared to like a competitive ladder kind of thing. I'm going to go for a Mortar now, since my opponent, yep, is going to have to respond to this Knight plus Mega Minion. He goes for a Battle Ram, so I'm going to go for Skeletons and then log it back as late as I can. And Knight on the Wizards to make sure it doesn't get any hits on my tower. And Mortar is looking like it's going to get taken out, but we know my opponent has Battle Ram now, so that's going to be his main win con. And so our main counters to Battle Ram are going to be either Musketeer or Mega Minion for DPS, as well as Log to reset, or maybe even Mortar to pull. And so my opponent does play a Goblin Barrel, so he's going to have 2 win conditions. I guess kind of like me. I have Mortar and Xbow, which is fun. But we're just going to cycle a Musketeer into the Valkyrie again and see how my opponent wants to support this. I don't have a Knight, unfortunately, this time to tank for the Musketeer. So I'm going to have to, I guess I'll go Skeletons, since I'd say it's pretty valuable. My opponent's going to go for a pretty aggressive Mega Knight. I'm going to have to go for a Knight. And then I think a Fireball, and now, yep, the Fireball did miss 1 bat, but that's not the end of the world. You know, a bat doesn't do too much damage. I took some damage, but the important part was I defended the Mega Knight, and he spent Mega Knight Bats, which is 9 elixir. I spent Knight Fireball, which is 7, so that's a +2 trade for me, another +1 trade with that log, and so I feel like we're up elixir now. I'm going to go for an Xbow. And my opponent's going to go for a Mortar. I'm going to go for a Musketeer like this, and this is why Musketeer can be really good. Because you can see here that not only is it sniping the Valkyrie, but it's also going to support me in the left lane afterwards. So Musketeer is just a really good, versatile card. And it's one benefit that it has over archers. And so now I'm going to go for a Mortar. Well, actually my opponent has Mega Knight in hand, so I'm actually going to hold off on that a little bit. Go for another Musketeer. And now I think I can go for an Xbow. And I'm actually going to ignore this barrel, which seems counterintuitive, but I have a really nice push coming along. And so I just want to win it all in this one push, actually. So he's going to go for a Battle Ram, going to log, and Mega Minion. He's going to get locked onto tower. So I'm going to go for a Mortar opposite lane now. I don't know if I should be going same lane or opposite, but I think it's just good to apply pressure. It might force something out of my opponent. Obviously, Mortar is less offensively threatening than the Xbow, but for that barrel, I saw it was in the back, which is why I went for a Musketeer in the back. And that's going to be a really nice first win against a very interesting Mega Knight Goblin Barrel multiple win condition deck. But I guess I shouldn't spend too much time about the decks, because I do have 5 arenas to get through today. And so that's going to be 15 games minimum, assuming I don't lose any. I didn't lose any last time, which was really nice. But yeah, we're going to have to keep things moving if we want to finish this in time. So log, and I'm actually going to go for a Mortar first play. This is kind of impatient, but I am quite impatient right now since I do want to finish this challenge. So he's going to go for a Prince. I'm going to go Skeletons to distract it, and then go for a Knight. And this is honestly a huge overcommitment by me. But my opponent went for Mega Knight, and so Knight, as you can see here, Knight Musketeer just so versatile at defending, so good. Gonna log as well, and so I really committed hard on that. But gonna be completely honest, I'm playing pretty impatiently because I do want to win as soon as I can, ideally, since I do kind of want to get through these. So I'm actually gonna go for a Mortar. My opponent doesn't have Mega Knight in cycle, which is kind of problematic. He has a Skarmy. I'm actually just going to let this go now, since I don't want to take any damage from the Skeleton Army as well. That's going to be a -2 trade for me in a vacuum. Mortar plus Skeletons against Skarmy. But my opponent goes for Prince now, and I can just go for Knight, which is a +2 trade, so it actually makes up for that -2 trade. And I believe this Prince shouldn't get any hits on my tower. I would be pretty concerned if it did, to be honest. Yep, it didn't. I guess if he went for a Zap or something, it might have gotten a hit. He goes for a Princess now. Gonna go for a Mega and Xbow. This Xbow might not have been that good, since my opponent did have Mega Knight in hand, but looks like he didn't choose to play it. So it's gonna take tower. And so if my opponent goes for a Mega Knight now, nope, he goes for Dark Prince. He's gonna go for a Musketeer just to DPS it down. And that should still be tower, or very close to it. And he is still gonna have to respond to this Musketeer, because it's going to take his tower otherwise. Looks like I'm going to get the tower. So, pretty good start overall. I'm going to go for a defensive Mortar now. Honestly, don't need to go for an offensive one since my opponent's probably going to go for a Mega Knight. I do want to set up on defense, and my opponent kind of makes a mistake there because I think Prince plus Mega Knight's one of the most threatening pushes in the entire game, to be honest. Like, very scary, especially for Xbow. But my opponent went for the Prince in front of the Mega Knight. So, Mega Knight is on my Musketeer now. Gonna go for Knight, Fireball, and Skeletons to pull the Dark Prince, and then log everything back. And so, I'm fine taking this Dark Prince damage. I don't want to overcommit. Yep, I was down a bit of Elixir, as you can see there, because my opponent played a Mega Knight when I was at about 6 Elixir. That's one way you can tell how to track Elixir. And now Mega Knight's gonna be on tower, but that was a really big overcommitment by my opponent. Just gonna Skeletons on the Mega Knight. It's not gonna take my entire tower. And my Mortar's gonna be on his tower, so in this kind of situation, I would still be up. Assuming I didn't take my opponent's tower, because I would have this whole Mortar threatening my opponent's tower. And also, again, like I said in the last video, this is gonna be more of a casual kind of video. I'm not sure many people would want to be watching Arena Challenge right now. I will admit it's very late of me to record it like this. So that's kind of on me, but I wanted to record anyway. It's fun for me, and I think that's the most important part, just having fun. So my opponent goes for Recruits. Gonna definitely have to let this go. Yep, so it's gonna be Fireball bait with Recruits, which I'm assuming means he also has Royal Hogs. And so this could get pretty dicey since we don't have a Tesla to pull the Royal Hogs. However, we do have the Mega Minion for his Flying Machine, which is great. because it's just going to two-shot the flying machine. And we also have the fireball if we need it. Looks like it's going to be the fire spirit version, so sometimes they have electro spirit, sometimes they have fire spirit. Gonna go for an Xbow now, since I have a knight counter pushing. If he goes for royal hogs, I'm just going to log them all back. So log right there. And skeleton army. Sorry, skeletons, not skeleton army. I wish it was a skeleton army. And so we actually do get a small lock for that. But that was very aggressive by me. So we'll see if we're down elixir here. I could actually go for an offensive mortar, but I think my opponent's going to be running zappies in this deck as well. So I don't want to just give it up that easily and give him a free set of zappies. Gonna go for recruits in the back. Just gonna go defensive mortar. I don't actually play mortar that much, so I don't know the exact tile or macro tiles or exact placements or decisions with mortar, but I think I'm gonna play it similar to how I would play a Tesla in this case. And zappies, I think I'm just gonna go musketeer in the left, because there are two zappies coming down in the left as opposed to the one in the right, less threatening. Xbow now, since musketeer counter pushing, and if my opponent fireballs, it's gonna be a pretty good fireball actually. But my opponent did also miss the musketeer, which is huge. Skeletons to catch the bar barrel. I say this a lot, and I say that I say it a lot, but catching bar barrels extremely important with Xbow. Right there, you see how much value I was able to get out of my skeletons, just because I caught the bar barrel. And one even counter-pushed, actually got a bunch of damage, which is nice. Musketeer in the right now, because it's anti-fireball for my left side tower. Don't want my opponent to get any value on my weaker tower. And I'm just going to fireball this flying machine and log back these royal hogs. And now I can go for an offensive mortar, actually. And knight as well in front, so my opponent goes for a goblin cage. And I do want to go for a musketeer, but I also want to be wary of giving fireball value. I'm going to skeletons there, log like this, and that's going to lock on the tower. Perfect, and musketeer might actually take out the flying machine. It does. Wow, so really great. Let's see if mortar gets another hit. That would be huge. It does, so that's going to be fireball range. Perfect. Good game. And so looks like mortar, Xbow mortar actually counters recruits. So if anyone's looking for a counter against that dreaded recruits deck, this might be one of them. And I'm just going to speed through. Wow, that's actually a really Xbow-esque chest, to be honest. But yeah, it looks like this actually could be a pretty decent counter, since, I mean, we have Mega Minion for the flying machine. We have the Xbow and mortar to keep up pressure. I honestly feel like mortar is better than Xbow to keep up pressure in that matchup, because Xbow, they can just get a lot of value. Mortar is cheaper as well. But really nice game, I would say. Arena 12 now, and so I did say Arena 12 would be Xbow bait, because, yep, we unlock guards in Arena 12. So I'm going to be putting Xbow and guards, and so I want to make a full-on Xbow bait deck, so that's going to involve Princess. I don't know if I should involve Goblin Barrel. That's going to be multiple win conditions. Might get a little bit weird. What else can we put in an Xbow bait deck, though? We have Log. I actually might want to use Snowball instead of Log, because Snowball's fun. I'm going to use Rocket as well, because bait decks usually run Rocket. Electro Spirit for a Spirit. And we're going to need a tank now, so I think Valkyrie is a good tank, but I think I do want to replace this Log. So in this position would usually be a Goblin Barrel in a bait deck. So what else could I use that gives me bait? I guess wall breakers count. I mean, they're kind of a defensive. They're kind of an offensive tool while still being somewhat bait-like, since wall breakers are pretty good for pressure. Now this deck I would absolutely not recommend though, because as you can see I only have one air card in the Princess. Usually Logbait decks have Easter Run Goblin Gang, which counts as some air, but Princess is less of air. But I'm still gonna go for it, honestly. We'll see if we go into the Lava Hound deck. I'm gonna be pretty sad, but I'm gonna split wall breakers here, and this should be pretty solid against any ground-based deck. And it is just for fun as well. My opponent misses the bar barrel on the wall breaker, so he's gonna give the WoW. And that's going to be a connection on both sides. So I honestly think wall breakers are very strong. I'm going to go for Ice Wizard. So Ice Wizard Bar Barrel could be Graveyard, possibly. Comes to mind. But we'll see what else he's going to have. And Poison kind of confirms my suspicions of Graveyard a little more. Now, if it is going to be Splash Yard, I'm going to be pretty worried about the baby dragon, because it looks like it's going to be Inferno Dragon, so I'm going to go Wall Breakers opposite. I do not actually have any great answers to that Inferno at all, so that is not ideal for me. But Goblin Cage... I don't usually see Inferno Dragon in a Splash Yard deck, actually. So that is an interesting choice, and I believe the Barbarian here will not kill my Princess. So I'm going to snowball the Inferno back instead of snowballing the Barb back. I'm going to go for Wall Breakers now to try and force something out. So this is so far just functioning like a Wall Breaker cycle deck. But Xbow is going to be there to punish, I think. So if my opponent commits pretty heavily, he's going to go Graveyard, but guards are so good against the Graveyard. One of the best counters, I would say. My opponent does also play Poison. As you can see, guards plus Electro Spirit just cleaned that up perfectly. Gonna go for an Xbow now, actually, since my opponent did just spend Graveyard plus Poison. Quite a heavy commitment. And he's gonna say, wow, because, yeah, like, who would expect this kind of deck? Honestly, I would not expect Xbow after I see Wall Breakers. But here's another thing that you can do with Wall Breakers. You can kite things backwards. And so, one Wall Breaker dies, but one is still gonna stay alive, and Valkyrie doesn't take care of them in time, so that's gonna be another connection. So that's gonna actually be huge. So my opponent isn't playing much Inferno Dragon. And that is going to be my biggest weakness, I would say, in this matchup. Because again, I only have Princess as my only air counter. My opponent's going to go for a Poison now, which is, again, a pretty heavy commitment. So it's time to Xbow. And Goblin Cage comes down, going to go Princess, and it does lock on. Same kind of snowball idea to maximize the Xbow connection on the tower. Wall Breaker's opposite to pressure. And I'm going to block this Valkyrie at the bridge, actually. So, you know, Graveyard players, they usually need a tank for their Graveyard, in this case. And I'm actually going to use Rocket here. First time using Rocket, I believe. But I think it's great, because my opponent does obviously want to go for a Graveyard. So, Guard's perfect response. You know, Graveyard plus Poison is going to be 9 Elixir. Guards is only 3. So, perfect. Guards are a perfect response to the Graveyard. I can Xbow now with this Princess and Wall Breakers, and honestly, this is just a lot of fun. Which is the point of this video. I want to have fun with the Arena Challenge. I don't necessarily just want to, you know, try hard all the time and make a perfect deck, but play with more fun Xbow decks, and that was really fun. But, again, we are yet to go into Lava Hound deck, so we'll see if that changes. I'm going to split Wall Breakers here, and one Inferno Tower, one Wall Breaker comes down, Inferno Tower comes down, gonna go Princess to snipe the Inferno Tower. I believe it's in range. And Mega Knight will just get a Valkyrie as a response. I believe Valkyrie actually fully counters Mega Knight with help by the tower. We'll find out. But Princess should help out too, as she does. And I'm going to Xbow now to find out what my opponent has. So this could be a really bad idea or a really good idea. We'll see. Gonna go for Hog, and I will snowball it back. And so Valkyrie staying alive. And I don't think I'm going to Wall Breakers opposite, since my opponent is going to still be forced to respond to this Xbow. Wall Breakers just so much pressure. Look at that. Going to go for a barrel. Just going to go guards to hopefully take 2 of them. Yep, and Princess is locked on a tower, so it looks like we might have already won, actually. My opponent should be pretty low on elixir, so Princess Bridge, you know how it is with Princess. You can go Princess at the bridge, and it's going to get a lot of damage. Princess is honestly kind of like a secondary win con in some matchups for Logbait. And so that's, for 3 elixir, it's going to take the entire tower. And again, I can literally just Valkyrie for this Mega Knight. Not worried about it at all. So Valkyrie, and both towers target it, which is exactly what I wanted. So Hog Rider going to come down. Going to Xbow now. Do not, unfortunately, have a great building response to the Hog. And I don't need to snowball this, because I'm not worried about this Xbow staying alive. I did play it in the right, because if I played one more to the left, which would target the left side tower, it would have actually not pulled the Hog Rider. So wasn't worried about that Xbow for defense, was only worried about it to defend against the Hog Rider. Sorry, not worried about it for offense. And now Valkyrie on top of both of these will be great. But one thing to watch out for now is that we don't have Valkyrie in hand against the Mega Knight. And so Goblin Cage comes down. Gonna try and cycle back to a Valkyrie pretty subtly. Although this is not very subtle, I'm kind of spamming a lot. But we're gonna go for a try to protect the Princess. If you watch any Princess player, they're gonna say protecting your Princess is very important. And so One thing I did notice about this deck, as you saw just now, I have a lot of arrows value available to be given out. I mean, I have guards, I have wall breakers, I have princess, and yeah, it can be pretty bad, but I'm going to protect these princesses again. Probably going to force out a Mega Knight, which will be really good, because the princesses are still staying alive. And maybe I could be rocketing this. I'm going to be honest, I haven't used rocket at all so far in this match, and last match I only used it once. So maybe rocket could be a better card, but it feels more like a bait deck with rocket, I guess, because Logbait runs rocket, Rascal's bait runs rocket. Pretty much most bait decks usually run rocket. So just going to stay to rocket, I guess. If we go against another Xbow deck, that rocket's going to be huge. Although I don't believe we fought against much Xbow at all so far. I think last video we did play against a Xbow Mega Knight Balloon deck, if I recall correctly. So that was interesting, to say the least. But he's going to go for Hog, and now I'm actually going to rocket, so... And activate King with this E-Spirit, using my Princess. So that was a big commitment, though. Princess is a 3-for-1 on the E-Spirit. Rocket is a 6-for-4 on the Hog. So it's going to be some kind of Hog Cycle deck, and this might not be great, since Hog Cycle deck seems like the kind of deck that would counter a deck like this, because we don't have the Tesla, we don't have a cheap building to counter the Hog. I'm just going to have a Valkyrie, though, so it could also be Hog Earthquake. Goes for guards, and one wall breaker still connects, which is pretty interesting. I'm going to go for guards, not Valkyrie, because I want my Valkyrie for his. And I'm going to have to snowball this Hog back again. And I think E-Spirit on it too. But King Tower does help out, which means it's only going to get one hit. That Princess was a mistake. I should have played it in the right, so my opponent couldn't get Fireball value on the left. So that's important to watch out for, and I will try and take note of that coming up. But it's going to be Hog Cycle with Valkyrie Guard, so going to be pretty hard to break through with my wall breakers, I think, because guards, good cheap answer. Valkyrie, pretty good answer to wall breakers. Also, this Hog pressure is getting pretty difficult. And I waited a bit on my Valkyrie there because I want to get rocket value on both. You'll notice that I could have gone for a Valk in the middle to pull the Valk away. But if my opponent went for Hog right after, which is what I was expecting, I wouldn't have been able to hit both with the rocket. And so that's why I went for my Valk lower like that, and also why I waited on it. And so Prince is going to lock on. Gonna go E-Spirit to pull both the guards and distract the Ewas a bit. Hopefully Ewas only gets one hit, it does, and so wall breakers now force out a cannon. Pretty good positive elixir trade for me. For the next Hog, I think I'm gonna go guards plus snowball. So I'm gonna go guards, kind of anticipating a Hog here. Otherwise I'm just gonna rocket, so this is the matchup where rocket's gonna be good, I guess. 2 rocket cycle. And so my opponent is going to be having a fireball, which I also have to worry about, and I kind of messed my snowball up there. That's fine. My opponent wasted his log, which means wall breakers should be pretty good. They did force out the guards when my opponent was trying to go all in with a push, so that was really good. And this is looking a bit difficult, though, because Hog's going to be coming up. Gonna have to get back to guards just in time. Hopefully it doesn't get any hits on the tower. King Tower helps out, and it does not, so that's great, actually. I'm gonna go for wall breakers now. So, yep, you can see that I went for a rocket. Guard's gonna be forced out. Are they late, though? Okay, actually, that forced out a lot more than guards. That was 6 elixir. So wall breakers can be huge in that regard. Now I feel comfortable enough going for a rocket, actually, because I do have a princess alive as well. Plus, my opponent went for a fireball. Gonna snowball this Hog back at the last second. And looks like it doesn't get a hit, so haven't used my Xbow the whole game. Maybe I'll actually go for a defensive Xbow now, since my opponent just went for a fireball, and I don't believe I've used the Xbow the whole game so far. So this Hog might get some damage, actually. It does, but Xbow's helping out, and now I'm going to go for Princess at the bridge. Might force out a log. It does, so now I'm going to go for a Valk plus wall breakers, since Cannon's going to be forced out. Now I can go for an Xbow, since my opponent's still on the defensive end, and guards as well. 1 wall breaker connects. Fireball forced out, and perfect offensive setup. So Xbow, wall breakers, Princess, very interesting combination, but I feel like the way I played that game was pretty good. I kind of went between rocket cycling and keeping up pressure, while also trying to defend well as well. But yeah, pretty happy with that. So we're on to Arena 13 now, and this is where I don't have a prepared deck. So I said I was going to play Icebow, but Tornado was only unlocked at Arena 15. So that's not going to be ideal for right now, since I need to figure out a deck. So I think let's just go with classic 3.0 Xbow cycle, I guess, because it wouldn't be an Xbow video if I didn't play it at least once out of 15 arenas. But I'm going to use Ice Spirit. A lot of you guys asked me about Ice Spirit against Electro Spirit. I made a video a while ago talking about Electro Spirit in Xbow and Ice Spirit in Xbow, and I won a grand challenge with Xbow, 3.0 Xbow with Ice Spirit. So feel free to check that out if you are interested. But need Tesla now. And I do think Electro Spirit's better in this meta, actually. I'm gonna go Skeletons too, and 3.0 Xbow, let's go. But yeah, I do think Tesla's better, Electro Spirit's better in this meta, because there's a lot of bait, there's a lot of Skeleton King as well. And I also prefer it against the Archer Queen, believe it or not, even though Ice Spirit does stun for longer. So my opponent's just gonna let the Ice Spirit connect. Gonna go for a Tesla against the Hog Rider. Honestly, 3.0 Xbow is my bread and butter. I played it the most out of any Xbow deck, although maybe not more than 2.9 Xbow, I'm not sure. Actually, probably. But just Xbow cycle, I have a lot of experience with, and so I'm pretty comfortable with it. So my opponent goes for Hog and Magic Archer. Gonna go for an Xbow now, since he just went Ewas in the back. I can kind of ignore it. Yep, he goes for a Valk. I will just go for a Knight here, and Ice Spirit to freeze the Ewas. Might get one hit, but that's gonna be fine. Now I'm going to need to go for Skeletons to kite the mini P.E.K.K.A. Now I'm going to be down Elixir though. So, you know, I did get a really nice Xbow push, but my opponent's going to punish me, which is pretty well played. I think I am going to... Do I want to Fireball or Log? I think I'm going to Fireball, because Log wouldn't really do a lot. Yep, as you can see, Fireball still did not exactly kill the Hog Rider. So if I went for a Log, it would have gotten even more damage. Not worth it at all. But, you know, not trying to play perfectly here, just trying to play well and have fun. So cycled Log there to get chip damage, and we went pretty aggressive actually against the Ewas, as well as going Knight on the Valkyrie. So that was a very aggressive play, and that's why I got punished by the Hog Rider. But it's honestly fine, because I got a lot more damage than my opponent. And that right there is, speaking of aggressive plays, that right there is a perfect example, because that's not going to do much for my opponent here. Gonna kite this Valkyrie away from my Xbow with Skeletons. Both archers will help out. It's going to lock on, and that is... My opponent's going to be stuck without Fireball from my Xbow, since he just wasted it on the Knight. So, pretty good punish. My opponent goes for a Tesla, which isn't going to get much value at all, since I'm playing Xbow. I mean, I'm playing on my side of the field. So... that Tesla isn't going to do much unless I go for an Xbow in the middle, which I'm obviously not going to. So Fireball the Magic Archer. Valkyrie. Now I'm going to set up my own Tesla, actually. I know I said my opponent's wasn't great, but I think mine actually makes sense, because a Hog Rider's coming down. And so he's going to go for a Fireball on it. I can just go for Archers to make sure I don't take any damage. Plus Fireball's out of cycle now, so I can go for a really nice Xbow push. That Tesla is once again getting 0 value. So Xbow locked on the tower. And I can go for a Tesla now, actually. I don't recommend this play, by the way, guys, all the time. Do not go for an Xbow plus Tesla, just haphazardly. Don't think it's a good play all the time. Everything is situational, especially with Xbow. Right now it was good because my opponent just wasted his Tesla and his Fireball, and so he was very likely going to play something in front. But if you don't know what your opponent's playing, or if you're not in that type of situation, I wouldn't recommend just going blindly Xbow Tesla. Just want to put that out there, because I see a lot of beginner or intermediate Xbow players going Xbow Tesla at a pretty inopportune moment. And this is going to be Balloon. I believe this is a B-Rad creation. Can't say I approve of it, but Balloon plus Skeleton Barrel. So I'm gonna Tesla and Archers, and it gets fully countered. I believe I also played a Log. I did, so that's gonna be 9 Elixir for 8. So I'm gonna be down 1, actually, if my calculations are correct. But my opponent is leaking, so the Elixir difference didn't really matter. Just gonna Fireball this Magic Archer. And I do not want to go Xbow right now because I don't know. I only know 3 of my opponent's cards. Yep, Ram Rider, Ice Spirit, plus Tesla. Honestly, I was looking away for a bit, so I didn't play Tesla in the optimal position at all. But yeah, my opponent has a Ram Rider too, so if I went for an Xbow, he would just gotten a free Ram Rider on my Xbow, and who knows what else. Also had a Valkyrie. So archers for the Skeleton Barrel, though. Archers are a great counter to Skeleton Barrel. Mega Knight coming as well. And so this is actually not looking great. Gonna try and cycle back to my Knight, and it looks like Mega Knight actually jumped, so that's my mistake. Kind of messed up there, but no point overcommitting now, because since I made a mistake, if I overcommit, I'm just going to be digging myself a deeper hole. I'm just going to accept that I made it, and find the good in the situation, which is that I can counter push with this Xbow. And unfortunately didn't have enough for Fireball for the minion horde there, so that was not optimal. Gonna be completely honest, I'm not playing Xbow extremely well, but I think we can still come back from this. Never give up. And so, Balloon is gonna be in hand. I'm gonna cycle Archers to maybe predict the Balloon. I'm gonna go Ram Rider and Balloon actually, so I'm gonna go Ice Spirit and try and hit both if I can. And looks like I was able to, so that's gonna be great. Hopefully Balloon doesn't get death damage on my tower, but Xbow also pulls it away. But the downside of that Xbow is that I took some death damage from the Death Bomb of the Balloon. But that's completely fine. Fireball this Mega Knight and Magic Archer now. And just like that, I'm back in it. So, like I said, never give up. You can always find a good situation if you really try. And I'm going to Ice Spirit now instead of Vlogging, since I do want to save Vlog to cycle on his tower. I need chip damage. Valkyrie coming in, and let's see if he goes for a Balloon or a Ram Rider. Either way, it should defend it just fine. And I can go for an Xbow now since I have Knight plus Archer's counter pushing. Mega Knight coming in. I'm going to go for Tesla now, kind of high up, to DPS down this Mega Knight as much as I can. Log it back as well. And this should lock on the tower and win us the game. So, good game. Honestly speaking, again, did not play that perfectly at the start. My bad for taking all that damage, but don't worry about, don't let it affect you. And think, oh my god, I took so much damage, I'm going to lose. Just try and focus on the game afterwards, and what you can do to win after. And so, next game against Dumb, to hopefully win in Arena 13, gonna go for a Musketeer, so I'll just Fireball it. This could be, again, like I said, I don't want to just predict decks based on cards, because people can make whatever they want, and it's not good to get mad if they don't have what you expect, since you have to be prepared for anything. But, could be 2.6. We'll see. Goes for a Fireball and one Archer, which I believe is a mistake, since I have this other Archer counter pushing. So I'm going to go for Xbow plus Knight now. And so that Knight was pretty aggressive, not going to lie. I didn't know what my opponent had, and that kind of goes against what I said of going with Xbows like that. But again, like I said as well, everything is situational. And okay, the skeletons were a bit bad, because I should have waited for the Knight to cross. But that's fine. Knight gonna cross now, and I can just ignore it. Didn't go Archer there because I didn't want to overcommit. Still want to be able to defend if my opponent goes with any kind of push. And so, gonna split Archers now, and see if my opponent is gonna make another push. Musketeer coming down again, but yeah, that Fireball of my opponent was quite a mistake, and wow, right as I say that, he does it again. I guess he just doesn't learn. But since I also Fireballed his Musketeer, I'm not gonna punish this time. But the reason it was bad was because the difference between Musketeer and Archers are that Archers were split, which means I could go in opposite lane, which I did. He's gonna go for Hog now, and Goblin Barrel, so you can fully counter Goblin Barrel with Archers plus Skeletons like this. Don't always need a log for it, just like that. So that's one interaction that if you didn't know now, if you didn't know before, you know now, and can be pretty useful. But the first time I went for a Knight, that was because my opponent went really aggressively with that Fireball. Although if I was playing on ladder, I don't think I would have made that play just as yet. And my opponent is looking like he's building another push, so instead of going for an Xbow, he's going to focus on defending first, and holding on to log for his Goblin Barrel, which will do just fine. Skeletons as well. and Ice Spirit for the Skarmy. And so now I'm actually going to go for a defensive Xbow, because my opponent's probably going to build another push. I'm really tempted to log that, but I'm not going to, because again, I know my opponent has a Goblin Barrel, and he actually uses it there, which I would say is a mistake. But gets a decent Fireball, but I think he's going to be down in Elixir now, so I'm going to go for an Xbow. Archers to predict the Inferno Tower, and we get it. So, let it lock onto tower, and that's going to be game. It's a good game. This one was a much better game than the last one, honestly. But that's fine. You know, 3.0 Xbow, just to kind of get, it's, again, like I said, it's my bread and butter. I'm very used to it. So just to kind of get that out of the way, since I don't exactly have a great deck. I don't have one for Arena 14 either, actually. But let's see if we can get some ideas. So there is Bowler, and I was thinking about maybe some kind of Bowler deck, but then again, that would require Tornado to work really well, and we do not have Tornado available to us. Going to be playing Icebow in Arena 15. And so I guess, okay, one fun option I can do is Xbow Fireball Bait. We already did Xbow Logbait. I said bait, but it was Logbait with the Princess, Guards, Wallbreakers. Now we can do Fireball Bait, so we can do Zappies, Flying Machine, Bomb Tower. Bomb Tower doesn't really make sense with Fireball Bait, I just felt like it, because it's kind of fun. Barb Barrel as well, and maybe Fireball. And so Fireball Bait, what else would go? Well, we have two really good and really solid air cards right now, but we're missing kind of a tank, which Xbow needs. Although I have used Knight and Valkyrie a lot, so I'm thinking if I should go for maybe a more fun, different one. I think E-Barbs are actually going to be decent for that role. And now we're definitely going to need a cycle card, so I think E-Spirit's going to be the perfect one here to balance out this high, heavy cost deck. So, very interesting Xbow Fireball Bait deck. We do have really solid DPS, actually, with the E-Barbs, with the Zappies, with the Flying Machine. And the main fundamentals for an Xbow deck, I would say, are Xbow, a decent tank, and probably either a building or a tornado, and we do have all of those. We do technically have Fireball Bait between the Zappies, Flying Machine, and technically Xbow and E-Barbs could count if we really want. But yeah, this is going to be a very interesting and fun deck. Very casual challenge. So let's go for an E-Spirit at the bridge, and wow, Goblin Giant first play. Gonna go Flying Machine and then Zappies. I tried to separate them as much as I could. Goblin Giant Rage first play, which is very aggressive. But as you can see here, Zappies actually do pretty great against tanks. So my opponent just went for 8 Elixir. I went for 8 Elixir defending, but he's going to have to counter push. He's going to have to deal with my counter push now. Musketeer and Heal Spirit comes down, which means my opponent is going to be down about 5 Elixir. Which means right now we should be, since I just went X, we should be about, like, maybe 1 more than me or something. He goes for E-Barbs, yep, so it looks like he was a little bit above. But I can go for E-Barbs of my own. Honestly, this might not be the best counter, because I do also want E-Barbs for his Goblin Giant. But at the same time, I do have a Bomb Tower, which I haven't used yet. So it was unlucky that we didn't have Bomb Tower in our starting hand against that first Goblin Giant. But E-Barb blocks on the tower, which is huge. And I will actually Electro Spirit this Mega Minion, even though I could ignore it, since I don't really mind taking damage here, since this is my weaker tower. I don't mind that because I also want to cycle. And so I'm going to go for a Flying Machine now. Barb Barrel's going to get 2 hits. Looks like my opponent's going to go for another all-in kind of big push with the Sparky. Probably going to put a Goblin Giant down and a Rage. So there's the Goblin Giant. I'm going to let this Sparky connect to my Bomb Tower, actually. So let that go and then go for E-Barbs. And the reason for that is because Bomb Tower is going to die anyway. Might as well let it die and then go for E-Barbs after. I think that makes the most sense to me. And E-Barb locks on a tower, so my opponent might be trying to go for an E-Barb of his own. Yep, he does, goes for E-Barbs. But the damage is done in both lanes already, and so gonna go Barb Barrel as well. And this should fully shut everything down, as it does, so that's great. And I could honestly offensive Xbow right now, but I don't have the best support with it, so we'll see. I have a Flying Machine, but that's not gonna be too big for DPS. So it looks like our Xbow is gonna get taken out. Unless, okay, Sparky does take it out. but that's fine. Flying Machine will also still force a response right now. Forces out the Galvan Giant. I can go for a Bomb Tower. Not sure if going for a Bomb Tower or E-Barbs is the better play. Looks like Bomb Tower was better since it is also splashing these E-Barbs. And I'm going to go for a Flying Machine now. And Xbow to counter push with the Flying Machine. Do have to be careful of the Spark again, but he just wasted it in the left, which I disagree with because I had an Xbow threat coming up. But anyway, that's going to be Tower. And now we only have this Sparky to worry about, which I'm not too worried about. Just going to Barb Barrel and go E-Barbs. And that's going to be a nice game. So that was actually a really fun game for me. And really makes this challenge enjoyable for me because on my other account I just rushed through with other decks because I wasn't doing it all Xbow decks since I want to do that on this account. But honestly, it's a lot of fun. Very fun to just take a break from very competitive top ladder kind of games and just enjoy myself. So gonna go Flying Machine for this Magic Archer now. Fireball the Magic Archer since Valkyrie's tanking for it. I'm gonna let this Valkyrie connect. Don't want to overcommit, don't want to ruin my cycle. Gonna go for an Xbow though because I have the Flying Machine counter pushing. And it's looking like wall breakers so far. But we'll see. I'm actually going to go for an E-Spirit now. It does change, so that was worth it. I was wondering if that was going to be a waste or not. I'm going to go for a Barb Barrel. This is a bit weird, but I don't want to risk anything with this Inferno Dragon, honestly. He could have a freeze or something like that, and I would just lose instantly if a freeze comes down. And looks like we're not even down that much elixir, because my opponent isn't playing anything, so he's going to go for a Witch. I'm going to split Zappies in the back and see what else my opponent's going to have. Now, I do wish I had a Barb Barrel for this situation, but that's okay. Fireball does hit everything here, and looks like we actually somehow were able to defend that. I'm actually a bit surprised, because I was pretty worried for a little bit there. But it works out. We get log value. We get logged by my opponent, which means we might be down elixir again, actually. But we defended just fine. And Valk in the back. Now I'm going to go for an Xbow, because Valk is a good tank for the Xbow. Yep. My opponent didn't have a great response. So I'm going to go Flying Machine for the Inferno, and E-Spirit to kind of reset it. Although it looks like we did commit quite a lot, because this is going to be quite a big push coming down. Barb Barrel gets a lot of value, though. And now I'm just going to Fireball everything, and we should be perfectly fine, actually. So, yep, we don't even take an E-Was hit. Fireball was great in that situation. And I'm going to go for a Bomb Tower now, which might seem weird, but I think it should be fine, because it's going to defend for at least 30 seconds, which I believe is its lifetime. And Barb Barrel now. Zappies too. And Bomb Tower again, since my opponent's probably going to go with something in front of that Witch. So this deck feels a lot more defensive than my usual Xbow deck, at least in this matchup. In the other one it wasn't, but I feel like that was because my opponent kind of overcommitted quite a lot, and I was able to punish them for it. But in this case, I'm just sitting back and defending because I don't really have a great offensive presence. I have really good defense, though, with the Zappies. So gonna go Barb Barrel, E-Spirit, and Flying Machine. And I think I can Xbow now because I have a Flying Machine, I have one Zappy. Decent counter push, finally. And so Mega Knight coming down. Gonna go E-Barbs, hopefully in time. Yep, they are in time to help against Mega Knight. So, you know, Mega Knight's pretty good. A lot of people complain about Mega Knight as well, I know. But E-Barbs are still pretty good as well because they did so much damage there. E was coming down. Just gonna go E-Spirit and Flying Machine, and my opponent should be in Spell Cycle range pretty soon. One downside of this deck as well, which is because we have Barb Barrel and not Log, is that we have really good defense, unless my opponent did not have enough elixir for the Mega Knight there. Or maybe he was just late with it. Either way, good game. Pretty defensive game, went pretty deep into overtime. But that's okay. 2 wins, and yeah, this deck feels a lot more defensive, because we also don't have a log. Like 3.0 Xbow, we have the log to chip cycle. Here we have a lot more of a defensive core. Might not even need the bomb tower on this, actually. But I feel like it is nice to have a building with an Xbow deck, so I'm gonna stick to it. And into the next match against Boss. Gonna give him the good luck back, and if we win this, we'll be in Arena 15, where we can play Icebow. So I'm gonna go Barb Barrel for the Goblin Barrel. Looks like it might be some kind of bait deck because of the Goblin Barrel. So I'm gonna go Flying Machine to snipe this knight, and if my opponent goes for Apprentice, I'm just gonna fireball it immediately. So Goblin Gang, I guess. I'll Bomb Tower, because the knight is tanking for those. And this will also protect against a Princess. If my opponent tries to go Princess. I'm gonna fireball that now. So this matchup, I don't know how to feel, because my opponent is definitely gonna outcycle us. I think my cycle is 3.9 or something like that. I'm gonna go E-Spirit. Did not have Barb Barrel and cycle, but we only take 2 hits. Gonna go Xbow now to maybe force out a Rocket. Or Inferno Tower, we'll see. Yep, Rocket's forced out. And I'm honestly very tempted to go E-Rubs at the bridge right now. Especially because my opponent just cycled a log. I think I am, actually. This is gonna be pretty aggressive, not gonna lie. But I feel good about it, so let's go. Goblin Gang is gonna be out of cycle. He also won't have a great response. Actually, I was completely wrong about Goblin Gang being out of cycle. But my opponent doesn't have a great response to the Flying Machine, so he's forced to play a pretty awkward Inferno Tower. And that was honestly super aggressive by me, but it was fun. And I'm worried about Princess now. So, Barbell for the Goblin Barrel. And you do also want to be careful of if the opponent goes for a tricky barrel against a Barb Barrel, because then you're going to have to change up your placement. It's not like the log, where it's easier to hit. I feel like my opponent might go for Inferno here, so I'm going to go Zappies to predict that. Looks like we did get it. So Flying Machine as well. Unfortunately, though, Flying Machine is not the best in terms of offensive pressure. So Xbow is gonna stay alive, but not, unfortunately, gonna be doing a lot. So if we had something like Archers there, it would have been a lot better, because more offensive pressure. But I'm gonna go in Xbow now, since I don't have a good cycle against my opponent's Goblin Barrel. And maybe I should have gone for something to predict the Inferno as well, but I kind of saved my cycle there, because I now have Barb Barrel back if my opponent goes for Goblin Barrel, which he does. He lets the Flying Machine just lock on, which is interesting. It does kind of equalize damage on both sides. And I can go for an Xbow in the middle now, because I want to go for an Xbow, but I don't want to let my opponent's Inferno get value on it. Looks like my opponent goes for a new Inferno anyways. That's fine, I'm just going to fireball this Princess. And so this game is, again, a lot more slower than normal. Flying Machine locks on, though, so my opponent is actually kind of messing up against the Flying Machines. So, looks like I feel like Flying Machine is a great card against Logbait anyways, because they only have Princess as their air card. As I talked about in my Xbow bait deck, where my only air counter was Princess. Inferno coming down, though. Gonna have to let the Xbow go, unfortunately. And he's gonna cycle Rocket now. That is gonna be super aggressive, so I'm gonna go all in at the bridge now. This might not be ideal, because I gave my opponent a lot of log value. But I did have to punish him somehow for going with such an aggressive Rocket. And so I'm going to go for an Xbow plus Flying Machine now, which is a bit silly, because again, Flying Machine is not doing me a lot of favors on the offensive end. Bomb Tower as well. And Xbow is staying alive, but not too much alive. Gonna go Zappies now and maybe force out another Rocket while I can fireball this Princess. Goes for an Inferno still, which is interesting. So I'm gonna go for Flying Machine now to protect against the Inferno. I'm going to pressure with E-Barbs in the left now, since my opponent's going to be spending a bit of time dealing with my right side push. So Fireball that Inferno Tower. And E-Barb unfortunately does not lock on the tower, but the Zappy does. So I'm going to go Flying Machine now, and we have to worry about a Rocket Cycle coming in here. So I'm going to go E-Barbs, and then Xbow. E-Spirit for the Goblin Barrel. This is really going to be my all-in final push. So we'll see if I can make something happen. Zappies as well. Bar Barrel for the Goblins. And Xbow locks on a tower, wow. So, looks like we made it work somehow against Logbait with Xbow. Fireball bait, kind of. I mean, E-Barbs were big there, but my opponent was, I think he cycled the rockets a bit too early. A bit too passively, a bit too aggressively, honestly. But that's going to be a really nice win, and we do not have much time at all. 14 minutes left. So let's go into Arena 15 and play Icebow. And I am going to play Icebow with the Knight as opposed to the Valkyrie. Now, I much prefer the Valkyrie, actually. And I've always used her, even before she was kind of more common. But Knight is kind of the classic version. And I feel like it's nice to pay tribute to the very classic version. It's going to go, and there's a Tornado which we unlocked in Arena 15, which I believe is Legendary Arena. Yes, it is, which is also in League Start. So, Icebow, let's go into it. 14 minutes left. If we have 3 games that each last for 5 minutes, I don't think we're going to make it. Actually, I'm not sure, but let's just focus on playing our best and trying to get this game down. So, Hog, first play. Gonna activate King with the Tornado, and you can activate King against Hog with a Tornado like that for 0 hits. So, you want to take note of that placement if you didn't know it before. And so, Hog tells me, okay, Valkyrie as well. Gonna go for an Xbow to try and find out what other counters my opponent has, since this could be Hog Earthquake. Goes for Inferno Tower, so Hog, Valk, Inferno so far. And he is going to be 2 cards away from the Hog. So Knight. I think Knight's going to be my best answer against this Valkyrie. Going to have a Goblin Barrel too, so going to log that. So it's going to be a Hog bait deck, I guess. Where the Inferno Tower makes a bit more sense now. So I want to cycle Skeletons, and he's going to go for a Wizard, so I think I'm going to go for a Tesla like this, which will not only help against the Wizard, but also if my opponent chooses to go for a Hog Rider, Tesla will also help out against that. And this Ice Wizard might have been a misplay, since I maybe could have gone for it on top of the Wizard and Hog to slow them down with the new Enter the Arena ability that it got. But I think it's fine. Back to Valk, so I'm going to go for a Knight now, and maybe I can counter push off this Knight. Although my opponent is going to have Inferno Tower and cycle in. Still hasn't revealed all cards, so we'll find out. Mini P.E.K.K.A. just going to rocket that. Mini P.E.K.K.A. does warrant a rocket, because it's going to fully get taken out, and I get chip damage. Going to be a -2 trade, but my opponent is still going to respond to the Knight with a log, and that makes up for the -2 trade. Plus, I can now go for a log for his next Goblin Barrel. I'm going to go for a Wizard, though. I'm actually going to defensive Xbow now. I think it'll get me the most value. Not sure if my opponent's revealed a big spell or not. I don't think he has. There's a Mega Knight, though. Yep. So, like I was saying, I didn't know my opponent's full deck. Mega Knight was in the deck. And so you always have to be prepared against that. So I'm going to go for a log now. And go for a high Tesla. Hopefully not too high to the point where Mini P.E.K.K.A. takes it out. Okay, it kind of does, actually, so no Xbow. But that was my idea with that Tesla. Gonna go for an Xbow now anyway, since it looks like my opponent is leaking a bit of Elixir. And Knight for the Mega Knight. And so we're probably gonna have to let this go. I'm actually gonna Rocket though, and Tornado the Wizard back. So that might have been a pretty ambitious play actually, because it looks like that didn't get us a connection. But that's still okay. Gonna log. And go for a Knight. And so this game is actually going a bit slowly because I think I'm being a bit aggressive and not punishing at the perfect time. But my opponent isn't getting much damage on my side either, so I'm not too bothered right now. Gonna rocket on both the Wizard and the Hog, so that was actually a really good rocket. That hit both. I'd say that was a very aggressive Valkyrie since the push was basically dead. And I can go for an Xbow now, so I'm gonna go for a Knight and then Xbow. Xbow after the Valk gets taken out. I'm gonna ignore that Goblin Barrel. which I did do, I believe, a couple of games ago, or a few games ago, which again seems counterintuitive, but the reason for that is because I have this huge Xbow push coming up, and so a little damage isn't going to be that bad for me if I can get a lot of damage in return, which I am, and that actually might be enough to almost take tower. So I'm going to rocket, and that should actually be tower. So a really nice win against Mega Knight Hog. You know, it took me a little bit to find my groove, but we are able to win. And just 10 minutes left now. So into the next match against Nelim from Easy Clan. So gonna log first play, and he's gonna go for a bowler. So I'm gonna go skeletons, and I think just Tesla, because I think it's safe. I don't want to go knight if it's just gonna walk up and feed the bowler, not help out on my side. I think it's better to go for a Tesla, a bit safer. I'm gonna go for a wizard, which I will just safely and gladly rocket. Now, because of that rocket, I will not go for a knight on this bowler, because that would be quite an overcommitment. Tesla does fully take it out anyway, so that's pretty cool. And looks like my opponent kind of makes up for the elixir disadvantage we had by just cycling a log. So, bowler, wizard, and Tesla now. Tesla coming down, I'm gonna go punish with an Xbow. And it's gonna lock on, so my opponent was maybe panicking. Or, I don't know. But gonna go wizard, gonna go knight immediately. And looks like my knight was unfortunately a bit late. Wizard targeting was pretty fast over there. So, knight, I was hoping to take the entire tower. But it's still okay, you know, I took majority of it, and that's gonna be in range of 2 rockets. Or alternatively, I could also just cycle a log, and cycle a bunch more logs, and then rocket once, which I think would be a lot smarter and safer to do. My opponent still hasn't revealed any offensive threats, though. So far, just bowler, wizard, and there it is. So there's the RG. Gonna go skeletons, knight, and tornado back. Tornado back, I wanted to do it a bit later, but because of the bats, I kind of had to do it immediately. And so that's gonna get 1 hit, perfectly okay, actually. Because I also didn't want to log again, because I say this quite a bit, but you don't want to overcommit on your offense or defense, as a good general rule. And so I didn't want to go log as well, when I don't mind taking 1 hit there. So my opponent's going to break my rule, though, and go very aggressive. And so I'm going to go for knight here, tornado this back, and go for a low Tesla afterwards. And Ice Wizard's also going to provide a bit of a threat in the left, which looks like my opponent is just going to ignore, which is interesting. I'm just going to rocket this wizard, no need to mess around with it. I can easily get back to another rocket to take out the tower. And I just have to focus on defending. So get another Ice Wiz down. And he goes for a bowler in the back, which I disagree with because there's only 15 seconds left. He kind of has to make a push right now. Otherwise, I'm just going to rocket the tower. I'm going to log this back as well. Rocket tower. And tornado this back, just in case. Looks like my opponent maybe gave up as well. Good game. Pretty solid win against RG with a bunch of heavier cards. My opponent also wasted his Teslas quite a bit there. And looks like we do have 6 minutes, 50 seconds left, which is still plenty of time to finish the challenge. Although, to be honest, I started a really lucky time then, because, yeah, if I started even 5 minutes later, I might not have been able to finish. So that's interesting, but gonna log. When we see skeletons, I'm not sure what it's gonna be, and I actually did misplay my Ice Wizard there. But I'm gonna go for a Fireball, so I'm gonna go for an Xbow. Could be 2.6 Hog Rider. It goes for a Valk, so Valk, Skeletons, Fireball, Musketeer. I think it's gonna be Mortar, if I had to guess. But again, could be anything. Expect the unexpected. But he is going to go for a miner as well. And this leads me to believe it's going to be Mortar. So I'm going to log this back just in case it would have gotten a hit on my tower. But I feel like this is not going to be a great matchup, honestly, because Fireball does fully take out the Ice Wizard now. My Xbow is not going to pose much of an offensive threat, considering the fact that my opponent has plenty of answers. But it looks like my opponent doesn't want to fireball the Ice Wizard. He does now, so I'm going to go for an Xbow. And possibly we'll see the same interaction come out with the Valk. Nope, he's going to go for Valk Bats instead. And he's not going to have a Musketeer... sorry, he's not going to have a Fireball now. He's going to go Skeletons to predict the Miner. And Knight takes it out as well, so my opponent did mess up with that Fireball, actually. And he's going to be very low on Elixir. So this is going to seem really weird, but I'm going to cycle a Rocket here, because I want damage, and my opponent's definitely going to be low on Elixir. Like, he just overcommitted really heavily. So, going to go for a Mortar, just going to Tesla. My opponent probably doesn't have enough Elixir to predict in front of it. Just going to be a clean 4-for-4 trade, which I'm very happy to take. And Tesla does stay alive as well. So now I can go for a Ice Wizard in my right side tower to maybe bait my opponent into fireballing it. And he does, so I'm going to go for an Xbow again. That's just a simple -1 trade for my opponent. And gonna log this Valk now, and let's see what else comes out. Musketeer comes out, just gonna Tornado everything back to kind of keep offensive pressure, and Skeletons as well, also helping me cycle. So even though we don't get much damage, that's gonna be completely fine. Gonna go for a Knight on this Miner, and my opponent does Fireball my Ice Wizard, which again, I don't think is great, because it's not solving too much. My opponent goes for a Mortar opposite lane, which I also disagree with. And we're going to get a connection because of that, because as you can see, that was just a really unfounded Mortar. I was going for an Xbow, and I can easily defend the Mortar with my Tesla. I'm going to go Ice Wizard to predict the Miner. I made it to activate King, so that's going to be a good game. But yeah, I feel like my opponent just played a bit too aggressively. Too many fireballs, and very aggressive offensive Mortar. So, really nice win, though. And with 3 minutes and 35 seconds left, that is going to be the emote of the Arena Challenge. And so, the challenge is over. I finished it on 2 of my accounts, I believe. And I have way more than 2 accounts, so that's not the ideal amount for me. I also finished it on Legendary Pop, so that was my other one. But yeah, that's going to be the Arena Challenge with many different Xbow decks. So, first 5 I will link in the description below of the last episode. I am also noticing that this just got over an hour long as well, which I guess was to be expected. I mean, it's 15 wins, it's 5 arenas. Yeah, Rage Tournament, 19 wins I was not so happy about, but there were a lot of Spawner, Earthquake, Fireball decks, which I think got pretty difficult for Xbow, actually, because I was able to beat most of them, but then they started having some with Cannon Cart and Arrows as well, and that just got a bit too much to deal with. So unfortunate performance on the Rage Tournament, but that's fine. And yeah, 9 days, 20 hours ago is when I last did the previous ones. So, decent overall. Pretty happy we were able to finish it. And so I used many different Xbow decks, like I said. I used Icebow for my last one. I used a very fun Xbow Fireball bait deck for just now. I used 3.0 Xbow for Arena 13. I used Xbow bait with wall breakers, which is actually a lot of fun. I was able to pressure quite a lot. So this was a lot of fun, honestly. And Snowball, I feel like is not as good as Log in an Xbow deck, but it's just more fun, so that's why I went for it. And then we went for Xbow Mortar for Arena 11, which was also pretty highly requested. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Yeah, here's actually my log. So I lost recruits with Fireball, Arrows, and Golden Knight. Golden Knight's just such a hard matchup for Xbow. Most Golden Knight decks, because it just invalidates a lot of your defenses. But my opponent also had Fireball Arrows for my Queen. And I feel like I could have won this one, actually, because it wasn't that bad. But then I think I lost to a Golden Knight dash. Probably same for here. You know, without Golden Knight, it's very much winnable. I did make a video on Xbow in the Rage Tournament as well, using 3.0 Xbow Cycle. And I was doing fine against all these spawner decks, but when they add Golden Knight, it gets a bit too much to deal with. But yeah, Xbow Mortar, it was a lot of fun Xbow decks. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And I apologize that it's pretty late. I mean, it's just about to end, so I would understand if not a lot of people want to watch this, but if you are still watching, thank you so much. Really appreciate the support, and hope you enjoyed it. So next up is the Royal Tournament, which is starting in less than a minute. So I'm probably going to take a break now, since I did just play for quite a long time, just to clear my head. but I think I do want to make a video on this Royal Tournament, probably tomorrow if I had to guess, since I could make it now, but I feel like I would be pretty burnt out and tired. So I'm pretty happy with the Arena Challenge anyway. You know, I like to record videos for myself. I do obviously really appreciate when all of you guys leave really kind and positive comments, but at the end of the day, you know, you're gonna get a lot of negative comments as well. And so ultimately, you have to learn to be happy with your own content by yourself, not compared to others, not to just only make content if you get positive comments, or don't make any content if you get negative comments. Just make it for yourself. I think that's the best way to go. And that's what I feel like I'm doing now, since, you know, this is very late, and I do apologize. But it was fun, and I wanted to get the emote anyway, so yeah, that's going to be the video, guys. Pretty long outro, but hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you thought. And feel free to leave any other video suggestions. Again, I've said this before, but I do appreciate whenever you guys leave video suggestions. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to take all of them, since I am also pretty busy, and I would like to focus on other things too. But at the same time, it's always nice to make videos that people request for, so feel free to ask, and I will see if I make it. But yeah, coming up next, probably going to be the Royal Tournament. Did just start, and no one's on the leaderboard yet. But I'm expecting there's going to be quite a lot of E-Golem coming in pretty soon. I mean, there's that one player, Feng Feng. Wow, looks like people already won. Very interesting Mega Knight E-Barb's deck. Yeah, both 3 crowns. But yeah, gonna make a video on that, probably just with Classic 3 Freedom Expo Cycle, as I always do. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.